Hey everyone, this is Javi of the Inner Child Collective. Have you ever thought of starting your own podcast? Well, if so, Anchor is the easiest way to make a podcast. I've been using this platform for a while and I love it because it's free, easy to use, and it'll distribute your podcast for you so you'll be heard on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and many more. But what's even better is that you'll get paid for all your hard work and dedication and with no minimum listenership. So, what are you waiting for? Download the free Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started.
Once again.
Hey everybody, this is Javi, and you are listening to the Inner Child Collective where you and your inner child heal for the better. Welcome, and how are you? I hope everything and everyone is doing well. I hope y'all had an awesome weekend. I know I have. I watched Pacific Rim for the first time, Pacific Rim for the first time, right? And that type of film is just very compelling. I love the story. I love the mixture of anime and science fiction. And I was just watching this with a friend of mine, my friend Caredwin, over this past Saturday rather, and we were just talking about it. And it was Caredwin, my friend Sarah, Caredwin, and myself watching this film. Never want to forget about Sarah. And so, um, we all watched this film together, and it was like the most compelling thing I've ever watched. Is the first time I've ever seen it. That type of film is the reason why I love science fiction as much as I do. Um, I definitely will watch that movie again. I have no problem doing that again. Um, I highly recommend it if you have not seen it. So, speaking of loving something, we're actually going to speak on that during this entire episode. So stay tuned for that. But before I get started with the actual discussion, I really want to talk about sponsorship. And for those who are, before I even get to that, excuse me, I definitely want folks to know who just hopped on that I am a psychic, intuitive medium, and author who uses divination and storytelling to help people overcome generational trauma. And one way I do that is by using inner child energy. And I just wanted to let y'all know that that particular piece of it, because for one, I don't know how many episodes y'all have, been introduced to, but this is one of the reasons why I speak so much about storytelling is because it's so important. And stories about strength, and our inner strength, our inner child's inner strength. It definitely comes from the movies we watch, the certain movies we watch, and Pacific Rim really touches on that as far as going back into some part of your childhood to face trauma. And so that's another reason why I watched that film, right? So again, we'll talk about that soon. But before I get started with the discussion, I really want to talk about sponsorship. Um, so I noticed that a lot of spiritual entrepreneurs follow me on Instagram or Facebook or Twitter, mostly Instagram. And many of them are using their gifts to raise collective consciousness of this world, to make this world a better place through their spirituality. And so, I would like to do everything I can to support fellow light workers, and I would like to have that support in return. So, for $14, fellow spiritual entrepreneurs can write an ad to be featured on my podcast, Inner Child Collective. So for 14, you'll just be on the podcast. You just send me an ad, and I will definitely read it on your behalf, so people will know who you are and where they can find you. What you are, sharing with the world, so on and so forth. And for $25, if you wish to be featured on both the podcast and my social media platforms, so I'll be writing your ad, whatever pictures you have of your product, I'll be putting it, on my stories, so people could um, know, that you are selling or, sharing your stuff with the world. So these two options are available to y'all right now. Sooner or later, they'll be a part of either Coffee or Patreon. I'm thinking Patreon. I'm being told to have both. You can also send those payments to, whether it be 14 or 25, to paypal.me/bowtie psychic, or you can go to my Cash App, $bowtie psychic. So I just ask that you write your own blurb, and send it to innerchildcollectivepodcast@gmail.com. And let's get this started. I feel that people are very hungry for spirituality, and this is just another way um, for me to support you, and vice versa. Another way y'all can support the podcast is by writing a review. By doing so, I'll be able to see what you like about the show, how I can improve as a host, and I'll definitely give y'all a shout out and see what's on your mind in regards to the show and what y'all would like to have me talk about on the show in regards to the inner child energy that we're working with here. So if you're on Apple Podcasts, Anchor, or any other podcast hosting site, be sure to leave a review. And with that being said, let's get on with the show. So this week, Spirit put it on my heart and mind to talk about another aspect of inner child energy work that we don't often focus on, at least for what I've seen. Um, with what I read, we don't focus on this too much. And what I'm talking about are the positive moments of our childhood. Okay, that's what I'm talking about. The moment where we're not, thinking about who or what hurt us or put us in harm's way. That's what I'm talking about. The reason why I brought that up is because we, and I'm talking about we as adults doing the work to heal from our past, especially anything pertaining to childhood trauma. We tend to focus on the shadows. Okay, it's as if we like go into the deep crevice of our unconscious mind where the abyss lives, and we just hang on to that and just remember that. Okay, and it's harder for us, okay, many of us childhood abuse survivors, to recall those moments when we could be ourselves, right? When we could be kids who didn't have to grow up too fast. um Regardless of the fact that we've experienced trauma, um, I realize there are happy moments as well. Now, and the reason why I say this is because I was this past weekend, maybe on Sunday, I was listening to some music that sounded very much like the type of music I used to listen to when I was growing up, when I was in high school, like Fear Factor. Um, I think it's called Fear Factory. I'm not. I think it's called Fear Factory. There's Fear Factory, and then there's System of a Down, and all that kind of stuff, right? Evanescence. I don't even think Evanescence came out when I was in high school, but I grew. I was in 1999. That's when I graduated. But yeah, I used to listen to a lot of that industrial type of of rock music on top of techno. So I was listening to that this past weekend, and realized that that was a happy moment in my life. Where I was at my grandmother's house listening, to tapes and certain types of music, or where they had cassette tapes, listening to that type of music in my aunt's room. right? That was the only time I wasn't sexualized. That was the only time I, got some sort of respite, some sort of peace. And that was around when I was 10 or 11 years of age. And I'll talk about that later on. But it's stuff like that we rarely think about as far as having a happy moment in our childhood. Um, we forget about them and our mind doesn't travel back to that moment. Okay, so another example I have is in fact, she brings up a really good point by saying this. I have a friend named Fi Angelo. Please follow her on Facebook and Instagram. She's a phenomenal healer, storyteller, and author, and she knows a lot about m- the wellness. She talks a lot about how we are to heal in this oppressive system, right? That um, is it's our duty to do so. So I highly recommend that you follow her um, on social media. Um, and she did. I remember, like, I want to say about a year ago, she did a Facebook live video on the very topic of remembering the good times within, our childhood, regardless of the trauma that we went through. And she said that while she was doing her own trauma work, she discovered that she rediscovered what she liked. She rediscovered the things that brought her joy, and she is now doing some of those things. In order to keep up that energy of joy, right? And that spoke to me and a lot of her followers. I remember distinctly that part of the video because trauma places it just places us in constant survival mode. This means that we're always thinking about our safety, our resources, or lack thereof, how we're going to prevent an explosion, whether it be, within our house or within the school or within some sort of system or industrial complex that we're a part of, right? Or not a part of, but affects our lives, one that affects our lives, right? In some way, shape, or form. Okay. We're always thinking about who we feel obligated to please. Okay. Who we're going to take care of, how we're going to get food on the table, how we're going to like go through um, life and navigate through these systems and survive doing it. Right. And a lot of us don't come out of that situation unscathed. I get that. Meanwhile, we have all these moments where we like to be children. We like to read, we like to watch cartoons, we listen to certain types of music, we watch certain types of comedians. We played with certain people, hung out with certain people that fed into that hope, that kernel of hope that we had within ourselves, that spoke to our spirit, right? Spoke to the core of our spirit. And so we are to focus more on that, not because, it's something to just do, but because it will prevent us from seeing an imbalance within um our thinking in regards to our childhood. Because again, we have the tendency to focus on the 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 negatives, okay? Especially when we're going through the healing process, okay? So, again, I have another story for you. When I was little, I used to watch a lot of classic television. In fact, I used to do this when I was in junior high, right? But when I was really little, I used to watch a lot of classic television, with my father in particular. So I used to watch a lot of the Three Stooges. I'm a huge fan of the Three Stooges still. I used to watch the Monkees. I used to watch a show called Gunsmoke, which is an old western back in the night that aired in the 1950s or 60s. I used to watch Dragnet. I still listen to Dragnet because it used to be a radio show that translated or transformed into a television series. So for nostalgia's sake, I will listen to episodes of Dragnet on Apple Podcast. Okay. So again, I was into those type of shows when I was growing up. Even when I watch Gunsmoke today, it reminds me of that part of my childhood where I was a kid, right? I started listening to techno at 11 years old. As I said before, techno music was a huge thing for me. And also it helped me unknowingly tap into my queerness. I didn't realize I didn't even know what it was like to be a queer child until I looked back and realized that I was queer before I even knew what the words were. Um, and so I also used to read a lot of mystery novels growing up. I'm still into the paranormal. Gothic children's novels are basically my favorite type of novels because at 11 I wanted to be goth, and I love like the whole aspect of human darkness and the the paranormal aspect of being human or the human existence, right? We, I mean, obviously, it played a huge part in what I do today, as far as believing in spirits, the spirit world, um, and it's that type of stuff that I was into. Okay, all of my inner selves, and I say all that because all of my inner selves have their own interests that weren't tainted by trauma. In fact, I feel that way and believe that for a lot of us, for a lot of people in this world, that we have inner selves. We have all these selves, that were that grew up in trauma, but we still had those little bit of activities that basically centered us or basically gave us some sort of break from what happened, and it gave us joy in the process, right? Okay, so it and the interests I just named for myself, though, and I just felt like they brought me joy because I was able to express myself through them. I was able to see another world um outside of what all I was going through. Okay, and I still can go to some of those things and remember distinctively, like, where I was, what I was doing, who I was doing it with, and where it took me. Okay, as far as um did it take me to, a place of peace? It took me to a place of joy. There were times where I used certain types of music to be creative. So it definitely took me to a place that was a lot more peaceful and colorful and very playful. Okay. And like, I feel like everyone who has done this type of work, I highly recommend that you put yourself in that situation where you remember how it was before things went horribly awry. I want y'all to remember things in your childhood that reminded you that you were a kid with needs, with interests, with likes and dislikes. You were a child with, you know, um, with different ideologies, and you had a mind of your own. Okay, and your interests helped you solidify that. Okay, or at least help or initiate, you know, that realization that you are human with your own needs and with your own um with your own um view of the world, a more playful view of the world. Okay, um part of the inner child healing that we're doing, it involves being playful and inviting your inner child or your inner selves, all of your inner selves or some of your inner selves to play in ways that would allow the both of you or some of you to realize there is more to this world than trauma. You're here to have fun. You're not here to just um just dig deep within the crevices of your mind and your spirit, just to um pull up the dirt, you know what I mean? Because beneath all of that, there is like there is a pot of gold that involves your imagination, this kernel, and there's like this light that's within us. Okay, um we're not meant to take ourselves seriously even in adulthood, even though our circumstances prompted us and encouraged us to do that. That's not what we're here for entirely. Okay, we're not to take ourselves seriously when we're doing our inner child energy work. We're not just here to focus on the trauma and the shadows. Okay, even what you did for fun was like once a coping mechanism. You can still continue that activity without associating it with your trauma. Or if you cannot for the time being, you can work towards doing that. Okay, because you're no longer in that traumatic state. You're no longer in that for the most part, a lot of folks are not in that traumatic state any longer, and you're able to heal. Okay, so what I'm saying is that you can continue that activity that brought you joy, even for a little bit, once you've healed from that stage of your life. And I understand that there are people, certain folks in the world who are just collectively picking up and regathering their roots because a lot of trauma and a lot of tragedy happened, even in this lifetime, or especially for what I'm seeing in the media, right? But also know that despite what is going on, okay, there is joy. There is joy in what you in your everyday life that you can find, even if it's something small. Okay, we're not here to just live in trauma. We're not here to just live in trauma and to just bathe in trauma like it's bath water. That's not what we're here for. Okay. Um, and as far as continuing activity without associating it with my trauma or with trauma in general, I can give you another example. I began reading books at 10 or 11, so that people will leave me alone. I got tired of people bothering me. I got tired of, my reality at that time. And so I use books as a form of escape, and I use reading as a form of escapism. Now I do it because I enjoy doing it. I started writing because the same thing is my way of communicating with the world, and now I do it because I enjoy doing it. Okay. Um, and I definitely and I say all that because as I said before, I will say it time and time again. Like, when it comes to uh, what we love doing and enjoy doing, it is not to be dictated. It may have started with us escaping from our trauma, but it's not to be the only reason why we why we enjoy it and why we are in touch with it. Okay, we can remove ourselves from the trauma, and one way of doing that is by remembering that we were children, and it's okay for us to play. It's okay for us to be children. Even as adults, it's okay for you to tap into that inner child and ask them, what do you want to do? What would you like to, how would you like to play? What would you want to play with? Okay. Um, Whatever that looks like to you, whatever that activity looks like to you. Okay. So the tool and tip that I have for listeners is to basically remember that one activity you enjoyed as a child. That one that didn't cause you, I mean, I'm not talking about the activities that may have caused you harm or harm to others, but the ones that you can actually look back on and feel nothing but joy and peace. Okay. And you can you could do this in a form of meditation. In fact, that's how I have it here. That's how I perceive it. So if you're able to, okay, find a very comfortable place where you're not going to be disturbed for a few minutes. Okay, find a comfortable place. And once you're comfortable, close your eyes and take a few deep breaths. Unless you're driving or walking, remain aware of your surroundings while focusing on your breath. Allow yourself to become one with your surroundings. Relax into yourself, your body, your mind, and your spirit. Allow your thoughts to wander. Allow your thoughts to wander as you feel, the wind if you're outside, or the heat if you're at home. If you need to, you can touch your body. Okay, so you can become one with your body, the feel of it. And while you're becoming one with your surroundings, allow one of your inner selves to come forward. If there's more than one, then that's fine too. Talk to them, hug them, and tell them that you're glad to see them. And if they start talking, let them. If they ask questions, let them, and answer those questions honestly as you possibly can. Okay? Then I want you to ask your inner selves, whatever inner self, has come through, to help you remember their favorite activity. Pay attention to what they show you. Was it recess? Is it reading? Was it singing? Playing video games? Hanging out with friends? What is your inner self's reaction to that one activity? What is that one activity? What is their reaction to it? What is your reaction to their reaction? What is your reaction to the game that they are inviting you to play with? Let your inner self invite you to join them in that activity and allow yourself to be in that moment, to experience that moment. How do you feel about the game that you are playing with your inner self? What are you doing? Allow yourself to relive this moment with this inner version of yourself, because remember, you are in their world. So allow them to lead you. When you are done playing, thank your inner self for sharing that moment with you. Tell them that you will be back to keep them company because you enjoy being around them. Then take a few deep breaths as you slowly come back into the present in 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Your assignment is to engage in the one activity that connects you to your childlike joy. Do this for a week. I highly recommend you do it for a week, for as long as you can. Okay. And when I say do that one activity, you can either do it with your inner child or with your children if you have them. There was more to our childhood than the trauma we experienced, and we're being called to remember those experiences. Okay? So if you resonated with the first half of the show, please let me know. Okay, in the review section on Apple Podcasts or wherever you listen to your favorite podcasts. You can also subscribe to the Inner Child Collective as well. Or if you're on Anchor, you can favorite it, right? You can become a favorite. So thank you so much for this opportunity. I really appreciate it. And now let's get to today's Inner Child Energy message. So this is a general message, and I already put out the intention that the message would be for those who resonate with it. And I'll be shuffling cards too, just to give you a heads up. So if you hear or anything, like, it's because I'm shuffling the cards. Okay. So I'm ready to get started with the message. So we'll see how this goes. I'm really excited. So let's see what we have here. So, dear higher spirit, what archetype represents the collective for the week of January 20th, 2020? What archetype represents the collective on January 20th, the week of January 20th, 2020? Wow. Get out of here. So, I'm not surprised. So, the card that we received, and the archetype we received, is the child, divine. So the light attributes are innocence, purity, redemption, suggest a special connection with the divine. The shadow attribute, an inability to defend oneself against negative forces. What I got from this card straight away is that a lot of us, we are, of course, tapping into our inner child, but we're being asked to be innocent. Okay, that's why the whole concept of playfulness came up for today's episode, because we are being called to tap into our playfulness, tap into our innocence. Remember the times that we had those moments where we were able to be innocent children exploring the world, exploring the galaxy, exploring our surroundings. We're able to, in some respects, ask questions. We weren't afraid of anything because we were very much tapped into the divine. It would not surprise me at all if a lot of us were already seeing spirits, hearing spirits. We were already very much empathic. Um, we were able to um, feel without abandoned, feel without being scared, experience the world without being scared of what was going on around us. I'm getting a lot of us at around 2, maybe 3 years of age. We had that freedom, that sense of rebellion, a sense of discovery. Okay, we had that. And it's because we were so connected to the spirit world. And to be honest with you, children are um, more connected to the spirit world because the outside external world, where the humans are, they weren't tainted by the ideologies. They weren't tainted. We were not tainted by the ideologies and the noise, right? Okay, in regards to other people's ideologies and what they think about us, politics, you know, um, all the things that we're going through now, what we are being asked to rise above, right? Um, as children, we didn't think about those things. The world was ours, okay? And that's all we knew. That's all we knew. So we're being asked to play. At the same time, um, again, the shadow attribute, the inability to protect oneself. What I'm getting is that when we were children, um, we relied, of course, on these adults who did not know how to take care of us, whether it be mentally or emotionally, because they weren't tapped into their own divinity. Okay, so what ended up happening is that they allowed their fear to be translated or transported to their child, or transferred rather to their child, to us, right? They didn't know what to do with us. They didn't know what to do with this ball of wonder, this child of wonder that we were, right? So they didn't know what to do. And as a result, like, we feel like neglected after a while. Our questions go unanswered. Our imaginations that once flourished were tampered down. Or it's as if like our wings were clipped before we were even meant to fly. Okay, so that's where I'm getting from this. I'm getting a lot of heart chakra stuff. Um, so there's a lot of people who are grieving their childhood right now. There are a lot of people who are grieving the childhood they once had or wanted to have. Okay, there's a lot of people who are grieving their childhood because they wanted it to be one way, but ended up getting something completely different because of their environment and the people within their environment. So there's a lot of people who, especially, this is especially true for trans people who did not get who did not receive support, as far as their identity as a child. They're grieving. We're grieving. A lot of us are grieving the childhood we never had. Okay, because it didn't involve who we are now, or living authentically, as far as who we are now. There's a lot of heartache around this. And in the year 2020, the reason why we're being asked to play is because we can, again, like um, take that step to rediscover our childhood and to basically rewire it to where it's on our terms. That's why inner child energy work is so important, because when you tap into that inner child, when you tap into that divinity, okay, you're able to tap into energies, time travel to your childhood where you were able to feel those joys, and you're able to take yourself and that inner child and those inner selves out of the situation that they were once in. We're being asked to take that power back and to rediscover our childhood and basically make it a whole new ritual for us ourselves. Okay? We're being asked to do that. A lot of us are still stuck at that 2, 3 year old um, part of our lives because we have not connected to that 2 or 3 year old. And you can, in fact, do it by being joyful and being childlike. That's why you are being asked to play, to find out one activity that brought you joy, peace, and made you feel safe in this world so you can be who you are. Okay? So that's what I'm getting from that. Um, we haven't even moved on yet to the cards, and that's what I got. So this is like a very important message that we were supposed to receive. So, dear higher spirit, tell me a little bit about the inner child. Ooh. Okay, you got a couple of cards. Tell me a little bit about the inner child in regards to the archetype, in regards to the child divine. What was the inner child like? What was the collective's inner child like in regards to the child divine? What I got, yeah, I just distinctly got um a few cards here. The Ace of Swords upside down. What I'm getting is from this is that you were a child of peace. You were a child of peace. Like, you were a child of love. There was just no sort of anger within you whatsoever. What I'm getting is like you're around 2, 3 years old. I'm also getting around 5, but definitely 2 or 3. The Ace of Swords upside down tells me that you are just a child of love. You are a child of joy. You are a child of peace. You are a child that just wanted to live and be a part of this world. You played a lot of dress up. You had a highly active imagination. Played a lot of dress up. Played with a lot of imaginary friends, quote unquote. I'm seeing that a lot of you. I'm definitely getting like ooh, like an energy, like a feminine energy. So a lot of you are very sensitive and very much a caring person, to the point where you would sit with your stuffed animals around a tea table or some sort of table to play with their play with toys that were on the table. You have a beautiful room. A lot of y'all have a beautiful room where you can just be yourself. I'm seeing a lot of toys, a lot of figurines, whether it be like G.I. Joe or a Barbie or whatnot, but I'm seeing a lot of figurines that you're playing with on the floor. It's just, and you're playing by yourself. You're definitely playing by yourself, and you're very content with that, even though you love being around people. I'm definitely getting a Cancer energy from this, where you're very active, but also you're very family oriented. You had no problem in the world being by yourself and playing by yourself. I'm also getting like a I'm getting Gemini energy. Gemini energy. Whether it be sun sign, moon sign, rising sign, or Venus, right? I also have the chariot. The chariot. And what I'm getting is that you're always ready to go. You are never sitting down. You are never shutting up. And that's fine. You were just pretty much everywhere. Why am I seeing a 2-year-old in a dress and some culottes or whatever they call it, and some black buckled shoes. I'm seeing that, and you have dark hair. Whoever this is, you have really dark hair. And you're just a beautiful little person, right? So what I'm getting from this is that you're always on the go. You're always going somewhere. You always felt as if you stayed still, you were missing something. Okay, this is what I'm getting from the Chariot card right here. I'm just getting that you were about action. You were very action oriented, which is why you were always outside. Possibly, you were always wanting to like looking around, always wanting to be around people um, when there was something going on, but you were always one of those kids who just played by themselves. Okay. I got the King of Swords upside down. Like I said before, yeah, you trusted the people around you. I'm just getting there was no shame in who you were. There was no shame in who you were and what you were about. Okay. Like I just feel like you had no problem trusting people. You had no business loving people, and you loved being around folks um, who are just as imaginative as you are. Like there, I'm just getting like there was just pure love for you, like, and you trusted the people that you were around. Okay. Anything else, Spirit? I will admit when I the energy when I touched this card, the King of Swords upside down, I am getting that even though you yourself had no problem with who you were definitely surrounded by people who were just they weren't exactly cold, but they were very much adults who were torn up by life. They weren't tapping into their inner child. It would not surprise me at all if they worked a lot or they did not pay attention to you as much as they could have. I'm just getting that there were always I'm getting Virgo Capricorn energy. So someone out there had Virgo Capricorn parents where they were constantly working. They did not allow themselves to sit down for very long. I'm also getting like they weren't very um when it came to their emotions, they did not express them very much. So that's probably one of the reasons why you were constantly by yourself. Okay? All right. So what obstacles did the inner child face? Hmm. So what obstacles did the collective inner child's face when oops, what is dropping? Cards are just flying out. Cards are just flying out, y'all. Flying out of my hand, onto the floor. So, let's see, was this upside down or right side up? Okay. Okay. Oh, they both need to be upside down. Okay. So what ended up happening was that you have the Four of Wands. Um, Again, like the Four of Wands is usually about networking, but what I'm getting from this card right here is that you were craving friendship. You were craving someone to network with. I'm getting that you may not have had a lot of friends growing up, and so um, like you were constantly by yourself. You were constantly by yourself, and you felt like no one understood where you were coming from. You did have spirits and imaginary friends, um, but you didn't realize that. You didn't know that, and I feel like um, it wasn't exactly like an obstacle, but you just felt like people did not understand where you were coming from. I'm getting like Well, how old were you when this was going on? You were a teen when this was going on. Because at this point, um, around 13, you're trying to find that your identity and where you are, and what type of friends you're supposed to be around, and that's part of child development. And you were trying to find your tribe at that point. You felt like you weren't. I'm just getting in your stomach that you were very anxious about letting people in or letting people um be around you, because like it made you nervous to meet new people because you didn't know how they were going to feel about you. So this is around 11, like 12 to 13 years old, right? I'm also getting the Knight of Wands upside down. I'm getting that you were very hesitant. Um, you were very hesitant to let people in. You were very hesitant to let people be around you. Um, I'm just getting that there was some like it wasn't exactly bullying, but I'm definitely getting like there was some ridicule thrown your way. There was some ridicule thrown your way. So a lot of your confidence in regards to being action oriented or making certain decisions, that was pretty much quelched. You weren't that. I'm definitely getting that after a while you were not that brave kid that you used to be. Okay, I'm definitely getting from the Knight of Wands here that as you're growing to your teenage age, okay, you have a lot going on in your mind. Your hormones are at a certain range. Your body is changing. For some reason, I'm definitely getting like, um, I'm not getting like there's a strong balance between masculine and feminine energy. So it makes me wonder whether or not you are agender, or you don't know that you're agender yet. But I'm definitely getting like I'm not getting like a strong feminine energy or a strong masculine energy. I'm getting like an agender type of energy. So I'm definitely getting that you are whoever is wa- uh listening to this, you're definitely not um you're definitely not just a man. You're not either a man or a woman or a boy or a girl. You're very much a person who is like in between or none at all. Okay, so that's one of the reasons why you feel like you feel awkward. I'm definitely getting that you are an awkward teenager. Um, who's basically trying to navigate through this world, especially through the school system, okay? Where you're constantly trying to find out who you are as a person. You're also very intelligent. You're very emotionally intelligent. Um, I also see you covering your face with your hair, so you didn't want anyone to see you at all, right? Ace of Cups here upside down. I'm also getting to that you really felt like you were not at peace with what was going on. You felt like people were you were so used to people not paying attention to you that you just felt very sad. There was a sadness I'm getting from this card. There's a sadness. Um and that sadness is coming from being misunderstood and feeling like invisible. You just feel very ignored. So that's what I'm getting from this. And you it's as if like you've forgotten your identity as a divine individual. Okay. So that's what I'm getting in my during the teenage years. Okay. So I wonder what how you were as an adult. Like, real quick, could you show me? Can you tell me a little bit about the child divine as an adult? What are they like as an adult? Okay. Yeah, you didn't. So you got a few cards here upside down. So what? Yeah, I'm just getting here. You have the Nine of Swords upside down. Yeah, I'm still getting like you didn't get close to people. You don't seem to be disappointed in anything either. Like there's no I'm not feeling a sadness as much as I am feeling a numbness. There's like a numbness when it comes to your emotions. Like you really don't get close to people. You don't get a lot of, even though you're like highly sensitive still, there isn't a lot of emotion. It's as if like, um, it's as if like you don't allow yourself to be disappointed. You don't allow yourself to grieve. Okay. There, like you don't allow yourself that grieving period when it comes to your feelings. It makes me wonder if, as an adult, I'm getting like 20 years old at this point, where you're like, fuck it. You know what I mean? You have like this fucking attitude. Okay, there's like this coldness that I feel with you. Um, like you're basically you're like you have this shell around you. Okay, I'm not getting any sort of warmth at all. So that tells you right there that you have like this, you built this wall between you and the world, right? So you also have the 10 of swords. You have a you have not let go of how you were treated in high school. You have not let go. Like there was a lot of things in your 20s, a lot of things that happened in your life, and you have not let go of that. Okay? You didn't The reason why you're not grieving is because you're not letting go. It would not surprise me at all if you were still carrying around. Yeah, you're carrying around a lot of stuff still. You really don't. You feel like people don't like you. You feel like people don't want to be around you. Um, so I'm not getting a lot of trust here, and you really have not let go of what happened. Okay, because the Ten of Swords is about endings. I'm not seeing any end in sight. If anything, I'm feeling a lot of sadness and confusion around friendships, around your childhood. There's a lot of grieving. There's a lot of feeling like you were given the short end of the stick. Um, and there's still like this. Yeah, like I'm definitely feeling too that you're not even. Um, yeah, you don't like being around people. I'm also getting some asexual vibes from you too. You are not like other kids because you obviously, I'm getting that you are not interested in sex or sexual activity. Um, so it would not surprise me if you were like aromantic, or the aromantic or asexual. Either way, you were not interested in anything that your peers were doing. Um, but I'm also feeling like this sense of distrust, like you don't have a sense of community. Um, So the Three of Wands here, you're looking for, you're like, what do I do here? Okay, there's a lot of confusion in your adulthood as to what your purpose is and what you're supposed to be doing. Okay. Um, and I definitely feel that. Yeah, this is, what is this about? Okay, so what can Spirit, what can they do to overcome? What can the collective's inner child do? The child divine do to overcome any thought or behavior that hinders them, the adult? Got some cards stuck in my hand real quick. Yeah. So you have 4 cards here. So what I have here is the Page of Cups. And what I have received here is that it's time for you to open yourself up and realize that you're a very giving and very loving and very inquisitive person. I'm getting that because of you being strange and people not paying attention to you, or people making you feel, especially in the school environment among your peers, you're being made to feel invisible. You feel like you stay to yourself. So what I'm getting is that you are being told to use this opportunity as an adult, um, to open yourself up, because not everyone is here to hurt you and not everyone thinks you're strange. Okay, not everyone believes that about you. You also have the Six of Wands upside down. Um, I'm just getting that a lot of people. Stop isolating yourself. Stop selling yourself short, and believe in your own power as far as being an innovator. You had an active imagination for a reason. A lot of y'all are storytellers. A lot of y'all are meant to be out on the stage, be out in the world, and you're hiding. So you're being told by spirit through the Six of Wands upside down to stop pretending that you are not a leader, that you're not an innovator, that you are so strange and so weird that you're not able to um, connect to others and to be a leader of others. Okay, the reason why you're being told to open yourself up is because you are pretty much meant to use your imagination to raise the collective consciousness of the world, or to just be happy in general, which is why you're being told to play, right? You're being told to play so you can remember who you were as a child, and you're a child of spirit. Okay. um the Six of Wands, or I'm not the Six of Wands, but the Seven of Wands, excuse me. They're like, I'm just is stop being so worried about the future. Stop being so worried about stop for one, I'm just getting stop being an adult for a minute. Stop being an adult for a minute. Stop worrying about what other people think of you. Stop worrying about the past. Stop worrying about whether or not you're going to weird someone out. Because even as an adult, you have certain interests. Um, I'm just seeing you like um doing things like maybe you collect weird things, maybe you collect teeth, maybe you collect eyes, you know what I mean? Maybe you're into haunted houses and stuff like that. You're into that. I'm really am getting that you're into the supernatural, the paranormal, and you feel like people are going to be weirded out by that, or weirded out by the fact that you are not, that you are quote unquote dark, and that's not the case at all. um your tribe is out there. You are to find them though. You can't find them by being in your house. Okay, you are to um use your interest to connect with other people. You are to be away from, not be away, but not count on the internet as much. You also have the King of Wands here upside down, and so you're being told to have confidence in yourself, to have confidence in your abilities to make friends, to not be that socially awkward teenager, because I think you got stuck there. That's where um a lot of your self-esteem was tore down. Okay? That's where a lot of your trauma started, is when you were a teenager and like 13, 14 years old. Um where you where you were pretty much like made fun of for being who you are, and for your interests and things of that nature. So that's why you're being told by spirit to tap into those things. Remember that time in your life, in your childhood, to tap into your inner child, where that inner 15-year-old, your and that 15-year-old version of yourself, and basically let them know that there's nothing wrong with what they're into. Okay, so that's what you're supposed to be doing. Okay, that's the only way you're going to be able to overcome these thoughts that you're somehow strange and no one is going to be around you, no one wants to be around you. um and it's just not the truth as far as the spirit's concerned. Like, there are people who are just like you, but they don't know you if you're not going outside. So it's just, you are to tap into that inner child, that 15-year-old, that 13-year-old, and tell them like, look, I'm still the way I am, and I still like these things. Thank them for introducing you to that. You know what I mean? just tell them, like, look, there's nothing wrong with you. There's nothing wrong with you. You're actually a cool kid. Okay? So, what to do? What can the divine child do to honor their inner child? What can the collective do to honor their inner child? What can a collective do to honor their inner child? The Queen of Pentacles. Nurture yourself. Nurture yourself. Nurture your resources. Nurture who you are as a person. Okay? The Queen of Pentacles is holding on very tightly to their resources. Okay? Who they are. And that's what you are supposed to be doing. Okay? Your time and your energy is just as valuable. You are just as valuable as everyone else. You're just as kind and as beautiful as everyone else. And it's time for you to recognize that. Okay? It's time for you to recognize that. The only way, and like I said, and the only way for you to honor that is by doing a meditative activity where you are tapping into the energy of your inner 15-year-old, 14-year-old, 13-year-old, that inner teenager who was called strange, who was ridiculed for liking certain things, and basically tell them, like, look, you're an awesome kid. You have an active imagination. Some of you are artists, so you're very much an artist. There is nothing wrong with wearing all black. There is nothing wrong with the paranormal. There is nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with liking snakes and liking spiders. There's nothing wrong with anything that you do. Let's watch this show together. Let's watch Unsolved Mysteries together. Let's watch, Ghost Adventures together. Let's do that. Let's watch, haunted house documentaries. Let's talk about the paranormal. Let's talk about, spirituality or whatever you used to be into, right? That child. Let's talk about this and enjoy this together. And Queen of Pentacles is basically saying to tap into that part of yourself, because contrary to the popular belief of other people, that's what you enjoy. There's nothing wrong with that. Okay? So, words of encouragement. What is our word of encouragement for the collective, Spirit? The giveaway. So we got to receive the giveaway. What I get from this card is basically start to give give away your time, give away your heart. Let people in is basically what I'm getting from this card. Let people in. Let people know who you are. Let people know who you're about, what you're about. You're a whole story that people are waiting to hear. Okay, your wisdom is something that people will benefit from. Okay, people will. You're not as. I guess my thing is you're not as weird as you make yourself out to be. Okay, and or at least not to the point where you're keeping yourself away from people. This is a time for you to basically open your heart and open yourself up to the world. Okay, so they can know who you are. They can know who you are. That's what I'm getting from that card. The gateway has opened in regards to healing that part of yourself. So it's time. It's time. So that is all I have for this week's episode of the Inner Child Collective. If that message or the first part of the show resonated with you in any way, shape, or form, be sure to subscribe to the podcast, leave a review, and share it with your friends. Let people know that I'm here. You can also follow me on Facebook and Instagram, YouTube, and now Twitter. If you would like a more personalized inner child reading, you can go to the services section on my website, thebowtiepsychic.com, to book an appointment. And if you have any questions or comments in regards to inner child energy or uh, any episode ideas or whatnot, by all means, you could email me at innerchildcollectivepodcast@gmail.com. Let me repeat that. Inner Child Collective Podcast at gmail.com, and I will have all of that in the descriptions. Okay. I would love to do a Q&A session, a Q&A episode actually. So whatever questions that the y'all have, by all means, like bring them my way, and I will definitely dedicate um an hour or 30 minutes to your questions. Okay. So thank you again for sharing your time and energy with me. I really appreciate y'all. Really appreciate the listeners. I noticed that like a lot of more people are listening to the Inner Child Collective. So I'm